everyone had a really great lunch. My name is Yoni Solomon, and I've got to say it's really kind of a dream come true to be sitting here in my favorite city. I'm Chicago born and raised, talking about my favorite topic of them all, right? Product marketing and go-to-market. It almost makes up for the fact that when we all woke up today, it was like 15 degrees outside, which let me tell you, falls in Chicago, they're great. But I always like to kick off a presentation before we get started with a little bit of hype. And so first and foremost, there's a very, very deserving round of applause to the entire PMA team. Really, for putting all of this on. I just continue to be blown away. These summits that they've been rolling out across the globe to bring all of us product marketers together, it's just being done in a way that I never could have imagined, and elevating product marketing to be so visible. So it's just great. So thank you for everything. So for a little bit of me, I've spent about a decade launching, products, capabilities, acquisitions, partnerships, a little bit of everything in between for some of Chicago's top SaaS companies. And today I'm head of all things go-to-market at G2. And so, it's pretty cool to be in a room, right, with all of the game's top product marketers, to be talking personas. And I wanted to use this opportunity together because I know a lot of us have worked on jobs to be done, personas for our perhaps customers, right, for our buyers. But I wanted to introduce a brand new exercise where we're actually going to flip that script and we're going to dive into the persona work on ourselves. That's right. We're going to do persona work on the team that's always out there doing the persona work. And so the genesis of this whole project is really threefold. So for starters, when I got to G2, we knew we needed to build out the product marketing organization, the entire function from scratch. And so for the first time, I really needed to start to think about how I'm going to go about building this team, and not just bringing in the very best product marketers, but bringing in the right product marketers, the right fit with skills that were diverse and complementary to the stuff that I could do well. And in addition to that, I've also been doing a lot of reading on the side into Enneagrams. Who here has done some persona work or personality exams, whether it be on the side or at the office? Who here knows what the Enneagram is? All right, so we got some people in here. I find them fascinating, right? In its own way, that's persona work too. It combines core skills, talents, leanings with your background to create this really cool composite of who you are. And so I think that's really cool and relatable to a lot of the work that we as product marketers do today. And lastly, this is really top of mind because the team and I at G2 happen to be in the middle of some pretty intense persona work at the moment. So combine, all of those elements, and what we end up with is this exercise today, going through the first ever reverse exercise persona on ourselves as product marketers. And there's never been a better time to do that than now. Because let me tell you, living at the intersection is hard, and it is really getting harder. Businesses are growing more complex. Categories seemingly every day, and I see this at G2, are growing more competitive and full. The economy's changing. We're starting to feel that now. And for us in software, the way that we release new capabilities to the market, it's really changing too. It used to take 3 months or longer to release. Now those releases are happening in just 3 weeks or less. AI is writing its own code, and things are starting to snowball and move at this really, really rapid pace for us product marketers. And yet, it is our job as product marketers to find a way to make sense of it all, right? And to make the intersection that we all live in between product, marketing, and sales, look a lot like this. And so, really funny story, but after nearly a decade of trying, I finally was able to crack the code on explaining to my very non-technical parents what the heck I do for a living, right? Where we were at dinner a few weeks ago, and yet again, after explaining to my parents that I'm not the one running Super Bowl ads or, putting their display ads online or television commercials, I finally kind of took a step back and I pointed to this surge protector that was on the floor in our living room. And I said, you see how all of those plugs sort of fit into the sides and on the top of the surge protector? They look at it, they go, okay, yeah. I go, well, the surge protector essentially organizes all of these different plugs that are running their own currents from all of these other systems. And they house them and organize them and essentially keep the sockets from busting out. That's what I do for a living. And they were like, okay, well, I finally get it now. And so that's really what we are, right? We're human surge protectors who live at the intersection to keep everyone in product and in marketing and in sales moving in the right direction with speed and efficiency without, hopefully, most days, burning the house down, right? That's the ideal state. And so in a perfect world, I think every day at the intersection would look a lot like this, but we know it can't always look like that, right? And the truth is, in order to keep things running smoothly at the intersection of companies, we can't do it alone. It takes an entire team of very, very special human beings with different talents and diverse skill sets to make that happen. It's true in business as a whole, and it's actually true in product marketing too. But with that said, who are we as product marketers, right? We're not all the same. Who here thinks that every single product marketer has the exact same skill sets? Okay, right? We all come from different backgrounds. And some of the very best product marketers I've ever worked with haven't even spent their entire career in product marketing, right? They've grown into that role. And so just a quick tab here. Who here has actually spent their entire career from start to finish in product marketing? Wow, that's crazy. Okay, who here has, over the course of their career, played in another area in product marketing, whether it be demand gen or marketing ops, or perhaps come from CS or sales, SDRs, partnerships, enablement? Wow, okay. So I guess I'm not the only one. I started in CS myself. As I'm finding with most product marketers that I interview at G2, we all kind of fell into it in some way, shape, or form. This was something in particular that was a recurring theme in the dozens of interviews I was running when we were trying to build in the team. And so before we get started with these personas, I think it's really important to acknowledge the fact that we all come from a slightly different area, and that tweaks our professional experiences, that tweaks our skill sets, and it points us into a specific avenue in product marketing where we can add value to a team. And so, one last question. Who here has a traditional marketing degree? Okay, who here has a degree in like creative arts, or perhaps music or advertising or creative writing? Okay, yeah, so again, starting to see a bunch of different skill sets come through. I was an advertising and theater major myself, so you really never know how all of those talents get fed into the product marketing role. And so with that, we're going to do a persona exercise here, and as we go through this, you may start to do a little bit of self-evaluation and start to plug your skill sets and backgrounds, right, into these 5 different types of product marketers that I've tried to round up. And, for a little bit of background, this has been gleaned from over 150 interviews, both with candidates and on the side, over the course of approximately 8 months. So since the start of February 1st. And so I always like to use, celebrities when we're doing some persona work. And in this case, they all really, really fit. And so before we go too far in, just in case anyone doesn't know who these people are up on the screen, we have J.K. Rowling, who obviously wrote the Harry Potter series. We've got Freddie Mercury, the legendary frontman of Queen. Hopefully we all know Steve Jobs. We're probably taking pictures on a phone that he probably built in some way, shape, or form today. We have my personal favorite, and also my fiance's personal favorite, Marie Kondo. And then, of course, because we're in Chicago, I had to use the greatest basketball player of all time, Michael Jordan. So with that, let's dive into some persona work on all of us product marketers. So first and foremost, everybody meet the storyteller. I wanted to keep these as easy and digestible as possible, so all of these persona cards are going to follow more or less a similar formula in terms of who this persona is, what their core skills are, what do they bring to the table, what do they best understand on their team of product marketers, and finally, what are the most addressable KPIs that we can use as team leads to manage and benchmark their success. And so with that, my friends, please meet the storyteller. The core skills that she brings to the table, well, this is your expert story builder. Ultimately, what this means is she understands our buyers and their problems, quite frankly, better than anyone else on the team. And she really knows how to articulate those in written word in a way that totally resonates, right? How does she do this? Well, her signature output is probably going to be what we call message houses at G2, but foundational messaging documents or messaging platforms is also what they're known as. Whatever we want to call them, there is no one better to do a capabilities messaging exercise to hone in on the value than her. She also understands our personas really well as well. So if you're looking to create persona battle cards and cue cards, this is probably a great output for a product marketer who leans heavy into the storyteller mode. So as far as the metrics that we use to gauge her success, at least from what I see at G2, our message houses actually are a handoff, and they feed into the creative and brand side of the house, where we have demand generation copywriters, landing page builders, and everyone in between who essentially use this source material to run their campaigns. And so really, it's a great litmus test to having an understanding of how well your message is performing when you're literally seeing that demand come through or not, right? It's either resonating at the very top of the funnel, both with demand gen MQLs in terms of net new business and also with customer MQLs, right? Upsell, renewal opportunities. But getting those stories right is absolutely mission critical to building these top of funnel tools that convert. So with that said, this person ultimately is the product marketer in your team who is going to write the value messaging that inspire people to care and to share and ultimately to convert with your content. All right, up next, let's all meet the performer. Who, by the way, has seen Bohemian Rhapsody in the last 6 months? am totally obsessed with this movie, and there's an amazing YouTube clip online of Freddie Mercury live at, I think it was at Wembley Stadium when they were doing the big concert, and he goes through this exercise of basically singing scales to the audience and then pointing back at them. Has everyone seen that? I have never found a better example of human being alignment than Freddie Mercury leading 50,000 people in this scaled it was unbelievable. He would have been the world's greatest product marketer if he had decided to go into it. So let's talk about the core skill set that this person brings to the table. These are your expert in-person enabler of the capabilities, the tools, and the value stories that you're rolling out to their teams, right? These are the expert storytellers, and they, at their core, understand your people-facing teams in sales and in CS and more. They understand really how these teams like to learn, and also, just as importantly, they understand how to add excitement and enthusiasm and fun to trainings, right? You need to inspire some serious product market confidence, especially with your sales org, so that they can hit the ground running and feel confident and excited to sell what you just introduced to them. So that's why some really interesting success indicators for this persona would include go-to-market certification. Hopefully they're working side by side with sales enablement, and they're measuring time to first deal. So quite literally, how fast are you delivering training, certification materials, and resources to a sales team? How fast are these human beings taking this information into their brains, hitting the market, and closing those few critical first deals when your capability launches? In particular, I love finding non-traditional candidates in product marketing who tend to lean heavy into the performer mode. This is a great example where folks with a background in creative arts and education can be strong fits. And today, I actually have one of these folks on my team today, in which she is not absolutely crushing product marketing at G2. She actually has another full-time job as a wedding singer over the weekends. And so she is just everywhere and in constant performer mode. So she is a great archetype for this persona in particular. All right, so this is a face that everybody should know, right? He's probably pound for pound the most famous product marketer of all time, right? Steve Jobs. Meet the evangelist. This, my friends, is your ultimate product expert in your go-to-market function. So I found that at organizations, these tend to typically be really long tenured marketing team members who perhaps started in something like CS or as an SDR or BDR, or perhaps even an ops, and they moved over to the product marketing team because they could write and storytell, and there was a really significant need for someone to start producing content. At the end of the day, it's not hard to understand why they're so good at their roles. Every team needs a product marketer who knows the ins and outs of your product, the nuts and bolts, and when they're great communicators on top of that, they're actually tailor-made for simplifying your tools and capabilities for the masses, right? So that everyone and anyone can understand them. That's why signature outputs for these folks include really amazing user guides, FAQs. They can go really deep on objections handling. It's some of the best work that you'll find out there for enabling your sales team with product-related information that they need. And because they're so close to the product, they're actually in a really ideal position to manage some of the KPIs that we could associate with this team. I would love to focus my team in terms of, really dialing in on product satisfaction, collecting feedback, even managing a beta group to make sure that we are eliciting customer feedback and taking it back to improve our messaging and improve our products. And again, I actually have one of these folks on my team today. She has been at G2. I think she just celebrated her 4th year anniversary. She started in CS and again, moved into the product marketing and enablement function because they didn't have anything at the time. So she just kind of fell into that naturally. And actually, when I started my career at a company called Fives, I spent 5.5 years there out of school, and I started in CS. I got really close to the platform. I was on the phone all the time with customers. At the end of the day, they needed someone who could write, and I kind of found my way into that role as well. And so if you're looking for younger members of the team who've perhaps always called your organization home, who at the same time have really good natural skills for communication and simplifying complex messaging, it's probably a great indicator that you have a potential evangelist that you can loop into your product marketing organization. And so up next, again, my fiance's favorite persona of the bunch, meet the strategist. So we all know that we need one, right? We need someone who's going to be there to ensure a extremely successful and organized go-to-market launch where everything happens in sequential order and everyone across all functions in product, sales, and marketing know exactly where they need to be and when and what they need to do. This is a great example of someone that we need on all of our teams, right? These personas are experts in essentially bringing go-to-market concepts that your storytellers are probably infusing into their messaging guides, bringing those concepts to life, meaning they can look at those message houses and they can actually conceptualize a real way to introduce this value story into the world. So these are experts in execution. They shine truly by bringing creative campaigns, defined segments, and expert workflows to the table, and knowing enough about all three of those areas to really have a strong seat at the table with your ops and demand gen teams to basically ensure that things get launched the right way. That's why I focus on pipeline creation and influence as actually a really good baseline for addressable KPIs for this type of product marketer. And generally look for product marketers with a fun background in growth or project management or ops. Perhaps early in their careers, they worked for an agency, or perhaps they implemented and managed a marketing automation tool. They're close to the tools. They understand campaigns intuitively. And finally, whatever the background may be, these are the folks with the expertise you'll need to bridge that really important gap between product marketing on the backside versus go-to-market external launches on the front, right? To ensure that your campaigns are truly being brought to life and being brought to market in the most effective way possible. All right, and finally, let's meet the playmaker. This is, in my opinion, one of the hardest product marketing personas to find because historically I've always felt that KPIs and revenue have been more on the demand gen side of the fence. They just ties in a little bit more naturally. And with product marketing, we're now just starting to get really wise about the way that we build KPI stories and revenue stories for the products that we launch. But this is a really critical role to have nonetheless. Basically, the summary on this product marketing type is to give them the ball and then just get the heck out of the way because they are going to find ways to get revenue for your products. They're going to find a way to attribute it so you know exactly the impact that your team is making on the bottom line. For whatever reason, these product marketers are exceptionally and naturally close to the sales organizations. Perhaps they're former SDRs themselves. A member of my previous team at my previous company actually started as an SDR. And as a result, she had this really intuitive understanding of the right way to work with sales to get products into the market, and most importantly, which reports to access, which reports to build, and how to measure success. And so perhaps they are former SDRs, maybe they've worked in ops, or maybe they've been in enablement up to this point, and they actually want to jump from the other side of the fence, right, from sales enablement into product marketing to give that a spin. But ultimately, these people understand how your sales cycle operates, right? They know where the revenue opportunities lie, they understand the companies, they understand the deals, and they know when the best time to launch is, right? Is it the beginning of a quarter? It's probably not at the end of a quarter, right? Where in the middle, and how does that change from an SMB crew to mid-market to enterprise? All of these different things that you need when you're really tied into the sales organization, they're going to be your leader, right? To establish best practices on how you work with that team. They are amazing partners and collaborators with sales. They can drive win-loss, which we know is extremely important. And they can also conduct expert analysis on anything from competitive intel to new market entry. So at the end of the day, that's why we ultimately benchmark these personas, right? Drum roll, please, with closed won, right? And that includes new business. That's going to include renewals and, of course, upsell with existing customers. And so what do you all get at the end of the day, right? We covered a lot in a pretty short period of time, and there are quite a few different personas and backgrounds and skill sets all under the product marketing umbrella. But what's really interesting about all these personas is when you really look at them from end to end, they all fit in really, really seamlessly with each other, right? Because at the end of the day, when you take these persona considerations into heart and you build a balanced and versatile team based on some of the strengths that these product marketers bring to the table, they're not only capable of adding value, but they're going to take that value and they're actually going to run with it end to end, right? They're going to be capable of essentially uncovering the value stories that you need. They're going to be able to articulate those stories in person to your team so that people feel inspired and educated to take them and use them. They're going to root those stories in the actual capabilities and tools that you sell so people know how it ties back to the actual functionality and the capabilities that you offer. They're going to introduce it to the world in the most organized and easy to understand way possible that drives leads and pipeline. And then finally, they're going to understand your sales process well enough to take that value story at the very end and utterly transform it into value that's measurable and provable. I mean, that sounds pretty good to me, right? That sounds like a really great sort of take on a product marketing team. And I think when I bring this up in interviews, the question that I always hear from candidates is, they start to go through this process of, all right, so like I'm kind of a storyteller and I'm kind of a they're like, well, what if you're not a 10 out of 10 in all 5? And the truth is, like, no one is. If you find anyone with a 10 out of 10 in all of these areas, please let me know, because I'm really looking to hire at the moment. But I think the best case scenario that I've seen more often than not is that if you can find product marketers who are really strong and lean heavily into 2 of these areas, where they're like an 8, 9, or even 10 out of 10, and you can up-level the rest of their toolkit to be like a 6, 7, certainly like an 8, then you found yourself some really dangerous product marketers, right? Who can play in all of these areas really effectively. Crafting stories, presenting those stories themselves, right? Rooting into the product and understanding exactly what they're selling, launching an extremely specific, highly organized go-to-market campaign, and of course, working hand in hand with sales in those very moments to make sure that there's demonstrable revenue. That's a pretty great product marketer if you can find them. And ultimately, I think if we keep true to these 5 characteristics, we're all going to do a great job of developing this next generation of product marketing rock stars, right? Who are going to take this practice that we all love so much to the very next level. So with that, it's been a pleasure. Thank you guys so much.
Will you take some?
Yeah, we do have 6 minutes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Any questions? I think I forgot the mics out back, but you can just shout it out real loud. Yeah, go ahead.
What do you do when there's other parts of your large organization that are trying to steal those same personas and roles?
That's a great question. I think at the end of the day, so much of those personas are highly duplicative with like some of the stuff that all these other orgs do. I think at the end of the day, the real litmus test for all of these areas that we just mentioned is actually your ability as a communicator, right? If you look at those 5 skills, 2 of them are soft, 3 of them are hard and can be learned. And so when there are situations, for example, where sales enablement is someone who I kind of have a tug and war with a lot, wants to take these folks away. Right, yeah, right. Exactly. I mean, and if there is a high probability that these people are going to be launching rather than training, I kind of have those conversations one-on-one, but I will say the lines are getting blurred between sales enablement and product marketing, and you'll find more often than not when really great candidates come through who check a lot of these boxes, that's the team that you're going to be going with back and forth to try to like pull those great candidates. And also, by the way, as you develop these people, you'll also find that funny things happen, like your VP of enterprise sales swings by and asks how the product marketers are liking the team, because all of a sudden they're like, hey, I think these people can sell. So when you have like these 5 tool product marketers, you will find that teams across the company, especially in sales, are actually looking to pluck them as well. I think it comes back to campaigns and writing abilities to like really justify your need to bring them on, and that they'll do their very best in product marketing. Yeah?
Yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned the Enneagram at the beginning of the Enneagram, like fan right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
How do you incorporate that within the personas you talked about?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have an amazing CMO at G2. His name is Ryan Benici, and he's laundry list of stuff that he's done is actually really incredible. And one of the very first things that he has everybody do when they arrive is that they take the Enneagram, the whole team. And our team has even created stickers, Enneagram stickers that we have on our laptops. I'm a 3-wing 4, and mine's on my laptop as we speak. And so not just in product marketing, but across the marketing org, it's actually a really nice first interaction to look around, get an understanding of who we are as people and how to work with each other. And so we take that and obviously use that in the product marketing team. But really as a whole, across 70 people approximately at the G2 marketing team, we're all pretty wide and open with our Enneagram types. Yeah.
Fantastic. Any last questions? No? Thank you so much, Yoni.
Thank you guys so much.
Interesting.